Okay, My Adventures with Superman. I watched the first episode, now I'm going to talk about it. Lois Lane, I really like her. She's more fleshed out than she is a lot of times in these early years of Superman stories. She's not outright mean or hostile to Clark like she often is shown when they first meet. A good example of that would be Superman the Animated Series. I like that show a lot, but Lois is kind of a jerk to Clark a lot. But here she is a flawed character while she's not outright rude, so I like that. That was nice. Clark is not necessarily setting out to be a hero, but he is not refusing heroics when the opportunity presents itself. Cough, cough, Man of Steel. Kind of like in the Lois and Clark TV series, he stops the runaway bus, but his primary goal is to get a job as a reporter. That's basically what's going on here. In American Alien, the comic book, Clark is talking to his friends about how he's saving lives and doing supermanly things every day, but he doesn't plan on doing this indefinitely, which was weird. Like, why are you doing it now if you don't want to do it next week? I wouldn't mind the idea that Clark did not set out to be Superman, but as he keeps trying to be a better journalist and he's settling into his life as an adult, he sees that the city needs a hero, and with great power, yada yada. So while this wasn't his primary objective, he settles into the role because it's necessary. I think that could work very well. I'm not sure how I feel about Jimmy Olsen. Sometimes he can be awesome action hero like he was in the 1970s and a little during the New Krypton stuff a little more than a decade ago, but whether this is fair or not, he has a reputation of being Superman's annoying kid sidekick, and I think he falls into that more often than not, at least in what I'm familiar with. Here, his whole thing is that he believes in aliens like a more exuberant Fox Mulder, and if that's what they do with him for the rest of the series, I could see that getting old very quickly. I'd love it if he could be a competent photographer and also have this quirk of believing in the weird, but I don't know how they will handle that. In this episode, he isn't very good at the photography, and the further we get into the show, which I assume will have parasites and metallos and doomsdays, it's going to be really awkward trying to find a thing for Jimmy, since everyone will believe in the weird, since it will be a normal everyday occurrence in Metropolis, I assume. Either that or Superman's rogues will exist and nobody will see them except for Clark, Lois, and Jimmy, and that would get old too. I like that Jimmy and Clark are more on equal footing, being roomies and presumably closer to the same age before they even start working at the planet. This kind of precludes Jimmy from being the annoying kid sidekick, although jury's still out on if he will still be annoying. Frankly, I don't know any plucky kids who are tripping over themselves to get a job at a newspaper, even if it's supposed to be the greatest newspaper in the world. So this is a change that works for me. Since we are making Jimmy not be the annoying plucky kid sidekick, I guess the show thought they needed to make up for it by adding like 5 replacements. Fortunately, the Newsboy Legion is barely in the episode, but I could see myself getting tired of them if I watched more episodes. If I was in charge, I honestly would not do these kids. It feels kind of cynical, like we need a thing to draw in the preteen audiences, which is weird since this aired on Adult Swim. And that itself is weird because, at least in this episode, there wasn't anything remotely adult-oriented. Maybe later on, but this felt like it could be directed toward the 12-year-old demographic, and maybe even a little younger. And I don't think you needed adorable little tykes to make little kids interested in watching this. I liked Batman the Animated Series when I was 5, and outside of the Underdweller episode, we didn't have anything like this. While I do like Jimmy being closer to Clark's age, I don't really love that Clark, Lois, and Jimmy are all starting out as interns. I'd be more okay with it if they were all starting right at the same time, but not as interns. For one, how much does an internship pay? I usually don't think it pays anything. That's also something usually college students do, right? So you've got college classes that are going to cost money. Jimmy and Clark are in their own place. That's got to cost money. I think you could do the same Superman Year One story that they are wanting to tell if you said they were just past the intern age but still starting out at the planet. Since it's too late for them to change this now, and since we've been told season 2 will happen, maybe they could do a slight time jump between seasons. If they had a lengthy series run, they could do that with each season, and then you could see characters like Superboy and Supergirl show up eventually. That would be my jam, but I don't know if that's something these guys are interested in doing. Also, not sure if Jack Quaid could do the more sonorous, slightly older Superman that, in my mind, would be required if they were to do that. And you don't want to fire the guy just to move the series forward in time. Overall, I've been maybe a little bit more negative on this than I mean to, so I will end on a positive. This is basically the modernized Superman reboot that I've wanted for most of my life. There have been more Superman origins and revamps than I can count, out, and each one always does a little right and a little wrong, but this one gets a lot right, and I would love to see it succeed and be a generation Superman. As of this recording, you can watch it on YouTube for free, so do it. Let's tell WB that we like this and we want more. Okay, that's all. See you guys later. Bye.